What's an unfun fact? Whales don't die of old age. Eventually they just don't have the strength to resurface and slowly drown. Maybe if they didn't ejaculate 40 gallons at a time they could live longer. Deep-sea octopus babies take 5+ years to hatch, while mama octopus never leaves the nest to feed and dies when the babies hatch. She doesn't eat for 5+ years. At least she has her mate's detached penis to play with. Suicide bombers are a lot easier to identify post-mortem than you'd expect. This is because the blast from the suicide belt hits the base of the head in such a way that the head pops off like a cork. Investigators therefore have a relatively intact head to ID. How do you know this? I'm seriously curious. The female tarantula hawk wasp stings a tarantula between the legs, paralyzes it, then drags the prey to a specially prepared burrow, where a single egg is laid on the spider's abdomen, and the entrance is covered. Sex of the larva is determined by fertilization. Fertilized eggs produce females, while unfertilized eggs produce males. When the wasp larva hatches, it creates a small hole in the spider's abdomen, then enters and feeds voraciously, avoiding vital organs for as long as possible to keep the spider alive. After several weeks, the larva pupates. Finally, the wasp becomes an adult and emerges from the spider's abdomen to continue the life cycle. With a name like tarantula hawk wasp, of course it has to do something as badass and brutal as this. Female tarantula hawk wasp. That's it, my 4 biggest fears put in the same lane. When a male bee, drone, ejaculates, its testicles explode and the drone dies. It is literally a one-shot wonder. This is also a drone bee's only job. The males are literally slaves only used for breeding. And when autumn comes and the hive hibernates, all the drones are forced out of the hive to die in the cold. This isn't quite true. They don't explode. Their dicks get ripped off and stay in the queen bee. It's having their abdomen ripped open that usually kills them. But some do survive. When they get back to their hive, they're rejected from entering because they've fulfilled their purpose. Double unfun fact. The queen bee mates 7 to 10 times during her virgin flight. The next drone has to remove the previous drone's endophallus to begin mate. Imagine having to remove a whole dismembered penis before you can go at it. How's that for sloppy seconds? People who handle cockroaches develop allergies to them. This usually prevents them from drinking pre-ground coffee because of the cockroaches that get grounded in with the large batches. This is a viscerally unfun fact. Spits out coffee. Another reason to grind your own coffee. I handled dubia roaches to feed my gecko. Probably not enough contact to become allergic though. Only 1 in every 1,000 sea turtles born never make it to adulthood. To add to this, saving baby turtles at the beach is almost nothing, for conservation compared to protecting adult turtles in the ocean. In 2014, the CDC once found a smallpox sample that they had lost and didn't even know it. It was just laying around in some random storeroom. This is more flaw of record keeping. Oh, we don't need to import the data from our legacy systems. Nothing before 2005. As we move on to this spanking new Web 2.0 software. Quote, number of times I've heard companies say this on their own data and I can totally see how they lose track of really important stuff. Besides, the best way to hide any asset is to carefully make it inconspicuous that it blends in with regular stuff. It guarantees the most security at the most affordable price. But you cannot lose the key record tracking the asset. Dolphins in captivity usually commit suicide by suffocating themselves. Famous example, flipper. It gets worse, they do this by consciously deciding to not breathe until they die. It's less pressing a pillow against your own face, and more holding your breath so hard it kills you, and you are awake and aware the entire time. There are only 2 states in the US that have outlawed child marriage. One of them only just put it into law a few weeks ago. 23 states don't even have an age limit on marriage. It's 3 states: New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania, with Pennsylvania being the one to outlaw it a few weeks ago. We still have a long way to go, though. Edit formatting. Sea otters kill and rape baby seals, not always in that order. Seagulls are also known to eat baby seals' eyeballs. If they take the ship, they'll rape us to death, eat our flesh and sew our skins into their clothing. And if we're very, very lucky, they'll do it in that order. Deforestation in the Amazon got up 55% from January to April. Nobody's watching. Slash and burn it all so we make a couple more bucks. Quote, brush-tailed possums are coprophagic. Eat their own shit. They need their food to go through their digestive system twice to get all the nutrients. They're nocturnal, so spend the night eating eucalyptus and other plant leaves and flowers. During the day, they curl up into a little ball with their mouths close to their bums and eat the soft poo as it comes out in. Then while they're out at night, they poo out hard, long pellets of poo, having absorbed all the nutrients. Depends on what you find as fun. A King Henry VIII exploded in his coffin while the grave was being dug. The mess was cleared up by stray dogs. Build-up of gases in his body. I'm assuming that brain-eating amoebas exist at all, and is also pretty commonly found in freshwater ponds and lakes. Apparently only 4 people have survived getting it in the last 50 years. I have a friend that got LASIK eye surgery, and then approximately 2 months after she started getting eye pain and was losing her vision. I mention later in comments, but I think she cut it close and went swimming a little too soon. Somehow, a flesh-eating amoeba got into her eye via the eye flap left over from the surgery, and started eating her cornea. She was in serious pain and eventually lost all sight. Seems like they managed to kill off the amoeba, and then she got a cornea transplant. Shit was crazy. Between this and river monsters, I see no point in getting in anything but pool water, and even that's suspect. Female ducks get raped so frequently that they have a second decoy vagina that they can offer to intruders so they don't get pregnant by the duck they don't want to get pregnant by. Females' primary vaginas also are twisted with spikes at the ends to fend off male ducks. Unfortunately, male ducks' penises are also twisted. IDKY I upvoted, maybe cause I am upset and don't know what else to do. The fact that I already knew this and got in trouble for 6-year-old me talking about it in my grade 1 class kind of makes me question my early life choices. Don't let our kids listen to science podcasts. Edit. To clarify, I'm 17 now and my parents gave me their old iPod with like a lot of Radiolab episodes, so I would listen to them constantly. I have nothing against science podcasts, though it was an awkward call home from the teacher. I just saw a duck gang rape on another sub a little while ago. This has been a weird night. There are at least 8 nuclear weapons known to be missing. How the hell do you lose a nuke? Nervously glances at the coast off Tybee Island, Georgia. The youngest female to ever give birth was a Peruvian girl who gave birth to a child in 1933 at age 5. Yuck. I wonder who the man was. It's in the Guinness Book. Hey. Sorry for my English, but I saw the news of this in a YouTube video. The child was raped for her own grandfather. Touching an AM radio broadcast tower will kill you. And not only will it kill you, but it will hurt the entire time you're dying. Number 1. The voltage is so high that your hand would instantly clamp to whatever charged part of the tower you touched. Then because it's oscillating at a frequency your cells can't feel, you wouldn't be able to feel yourself being electrocuted until it starts to heat your body from the current. And you'd also be able to hear your body acting as a speaker, where you'd literally be able to hear whatever was on that particular station as you die. Here's an example of the sheer power running through one of these things. Oh God, so I'd cook myself to death to the crunchy sound of morning contemporary Christian music. Fucking hell. I've been living near a tower like it for all my life and always wondered how it would be to climb. I guess not fun after this fact. Tapeworms can grow up to 32 feet inside of you and they eat half of what you eat. People used to consume them on purpose to lose weight. Edit was not expecting so many worm comments. At what length do they start telling you what to do and where to go? Cockroaches stab their mates with their barbed insect ticks and comb in the lady cockroach wound. You forgot the part where male cockroaches don't know if who they are stabbing is male or female. So they're really just coming in random roaches and hoping for the best. Jesus fucking Christ sounds like a Cannibal Corpse song. When preparing a body for an open casket, the mortician will sew the person's jaw shut to keep their mouth from flopping open, and place special contact lenses on the eyes lined with hooks, both to keep the eyelid from snapping open due to shrinking tissues, and to give the eye a bit more natural bulge, as the eye tends to sink into the socket after death. My father is a mortician who now works for a university, but during his time as a funeral director, he embalmed some brothers who were in a terrible accident. This was a few years ago when I was in high school. They had been run over by a car, exposing their skulls. The family wanted an open casket, so my dad had to make them look as presentable as he could. He said that he had to fill the skulls with something hard because, yeah, he managed to make them look good and the family was happy. It's an art. A lot of it involves makeup and craftsmanship to make someone look like they're sleeping, so as not to freak out the family. It's definitely not a profession for the faint of heart. Thank you for not mentioning the ass screw. Guess who's getting cremated? Scuba divers can experience a sudden change in pressure when swimming near pipes and will get sucked inside. Doesn't matter the size of the hole. It's called delta P. Worst part? Someone else usually has to go inside the pipe to remove the body. The video of the crab being sucked into the tiny crack in the pipe comes to mind when I read this. More info and prevention of these incidents are in this video. Every unborn baby grows a mustache in the womb, which then spreads to cover the entire body. The baby then eats the entire hair called lanugo, and excretes it after birth with their first bowel movement, which is a substance called meconium. What the fuck? You might have just won this thread. This is a terrible thread to go through before bed. That's why I'm awake at 2 a.m. Problem solved. The Zodiac killer could have been caught 50 years ago if not for San Francisco Police Dispatch incompetence. Many serial killers flew under the radar because of police incompetence. Dahmer did. And maybe Bundy too. Allegedly, there are 50 active serial killers at any given time in the U.S. But then he wouldn't have went on to become senator from Texas. A human tooth has 36 calories. What the fuck? Stay in school. Don't do drugs. Eat your teeth. When the gas chambers were first assembled and experimented with at the Auschwitz concentration camp, the SS soldiers that oversaw the process found that the people inside would start screaming as soon as the gas agent was dropped in. The screaming was so loud that it could be heard through the thick walls of the building, and the victims would continue screaming over the course of 20 minutes until it gradually faded to nothing. The screaming disturbed the soldiers, believe it or not, so they tried to think of a way to drown out the noise so they didn't have to hear it. Their idea was to get two motorcycles and rev the engines as loudly as they could at the same time during those 20 minutes. It didn't work. And man I knew spent 3.5 years in Nazi camps, age 15 to 18. 2.5 years until he was sent to the gas chamber line for being unproductive. He didn't have the energy to care. Everyone he loved was dead by then. While waiting in line, one of the other Nazi soldiers recognized him and walked up and slugged him in the stomach and shouted, "Get back to work," and pulled him out of line. Motorcycles back then were allowed AF too. That's horrifying. You may have heard that South Koreans have a superstition called fan death, where if you keep a fan on too long it will kill you. The history of its origins is much darker. When people committed suicide and the coroner had to determine cause of death, they would say it was death by fan. This is to save the face of the family and not cause them shame. It eventually became a superstition and one that Westerners find funny. Finally, an explanation for this. My fault for not trying to find it out myself earlier. But at long last, an answer. Was wondering WTF this shit was about. First time I heard about it was when my ex, non-Korean, asked me, Korean by heritage, if me and or my family believed that leaving a fan on and going to sleep would kill us. There could be some planets swimming in the deep space without suns and even without galaxies. And you can't even see stars from their surface. Absolute darkness. Creepier is that rogue planets can theoretically harbor life. Male cats have spines on their penises that rake the walls of a female's vagina to trigger ovulation and to hold the female in place while mating. An octopus will literally rip its own penis off and throw it at a female, and the female fucks herself with said penis. Who said romance is dead? Male octopus, you know what, Denise? Go f***ck yourself. Proceeds to rip of and throw dick. There are a lot of bug parts that we eat in our food without knowing. Just getting those extra nutrients I don't have to pay for. Piper Perry. The girl on the couch with 5 black guys behind her meme. Came home from a shoot one night to find that her boyfriend had shaken her toddler to death. Wait, what? That's actually really fucking sad. He also beat the fuck out of her. Her braces were there to rebuild her teeth and jaws afterwards. Poor lady, feel bad for her, sad face. According to Perry, she had some of her son's organs donated after his death. His heart went to a little girl under the age of 5 in Arizona. His liver went to a little boy under the age of 5 in New York. And both of his kidneys went to a man in his 40s in Pennsylvania. There is a whale called 52 Blue that only sings at that frequency, meaning it can't communicate with other whales. It is nicknamed the loneliest whale on the planet. There's a theory that the whale is either deaf or a hybrid species of 2 different kinds of whale, making a song that is in between those 2. My heart is broken. Good night, Reddit. There's a species of river dolphin and there are less than 10 in the world. Everyone loves river dolphins. What's the species name? A single female tiger killed 436 people in India. She is known as the Champawat tiger. Wikipedia. That fact's not as fun as your profile. You live up to your name and I will never get tired of it. As dead bodies decay, they burp or release gases. For this reason, caskets and mausoleums need to be ventilated so that the gas can escape. Chickens do this too. I had a hen die of a presumed heart attack. As I moved it from the coop, it let out loud chicken noise that gave me an outer-body experience. Anyone can have a brain aneurysm at any age, no matter your health situation. All too aware of this one, unfortunately. My aunt had one completely randomly about 10 years ago. She had no prior health problems. Wasn't feeling unwell. Nothing. It just suddenly happened. She survived, but it's left her very mentally damaged and has to live in a support place indefinitely now. My 21-year-old friend had one as he walked in the door to his house. He still lived with his mother, father and sister, and his parents were making dinner in the kitchen. He asked for a glass of water, intending to take some painkillers for his sore head. And then he just fell over. The doctors said he was dead before he hit the floor. It was and still is devastating. A kid dropped dead during recess when we were in 3rd grade. We were later told that it was a brain aneurysm and that it is just something that just happens in. There really isn't any way to know if you will have one until it happens. Good way to freak out a bunch of kids and make us not want to go out to recess for weeks. That said, one of my previous co-workers did a college co-op for a research hospital in Italy that was working on doing MRI on the human brain to measure the thickness of blood vessels. They build a map of the structure in a human brain blood vessel network and then do a fluid dynamics pressure test to see where a rupture would happen. When he left to finish school, he said they were 3 to 5 years out from having it automated enough to be able to do a scan and in a few days have the results. Speaking from experience, had an aneurysm about 3 years back. Burst open and caused subarachnoid brain hemorrhage. Never experienced anything that was so painful in my life. Fortunately, I got treatment and was all okay without any disability. One of my top 3 fears, along with alligators and crocodiles. Squirrels will eat baby birds and horses will eat baby chicks if given the chance. Pandas will eat mice and other small animals on a regular basis. Most, if not almost all, species of animals will eat other animals for a multitude of reasons. I saw a clip of that once. I'll give you 2. The most common cause of death for tall people is a heart attack, brought on by the fact that their hearts just naturally have to work harder than average to circulate all that blood through that larger body. Left-handed people are most likely to die in an accident involving a power tool, because they're all designed by right-handed people. For right-handed people, I'm tall, 6 feet 6.5 inches or 1.98 meters, and I'm left-handed. Which one will it be for me? Edit, yay, my first ever award. I got it, yikes. Thank you, generous Redditor. Oh, man. I almost killed myself with this right-handed power tool. My heart is really racing because of it. Asterisk dies. Whales can ejaculate 40 gallons of semen at a time. Most of it doesn't make it in. Edit, haha, whale cum equals sea salty. That must be what impregnated my mom and that's why I look like this. Guess I'm going swimming in the ocean. Wow, a single whale ejaculation could keep me full for a week. Nice. You have a higher chance of dying on the way to get a lottery ticket than actually winning. Which game are we talking, though? The numbers game, Megabucks Powerball. This article on waitbutwhy.com is full of unfun facts. But, if you read it, maybe you can take action against it? It's called The Tail End. Here's an especially unfun excerpt. I've been thinking about my parents, who are in their mid-60s. During my first 18 years, I spent some time with my parents during at least 90% of my days. But since heading off to college and then later moving out of Boston, I've probably seen them an average of only 5 times a year each. For an average of maybe 2 days each time. 10 days a year. About 3% of the days I spent with them each year of my childhood. Being in their mid-60s. Let's continue to be super optimistic and say I'm one of the incredibly lucky people to have both parents alive into my 60s. That would give us about 30 more years of coexistence. If the 10 days a year thing holds, that's 300 days left to hang with mom and dad. Less time than I spent with them in any one of my 18 childhood years. When you look at that reality, you realize that despite not being at the end of your life, you may very well be nearing the end of your time with some of the most important people in your life. If I lay out the total days I'll ever spend with each of my parents, assuming I'm as lucky as can be, this becomes starkly clear. It turns out that when I graduated from high school, I had already used up 93% of my in-person parent time. I'm now enjoying the last 5% of that time. We're in the tail end. Alright campers, I heard from an anonymous source that someone was spreading the feels. Not cool, dudes. Your voice on recordings is actually how your voice really sounds. Your voice in your head is a bit muffled and deeper, because the sound travels through your head instead of the air. That's why it feels weird to hear your own voice recorded. In my head I sound like Keanu Reeves, but in my recordings I sound like walrus squeaking. On average 12 children are sexually assaulted every 45 seconds. The sad part is, I instantly thought that fraction can be reduced. 4 children are sexually assaulted every 15 seconds is way more streamlined. Around 1.5 million people die from TB annually, which is a disease consistently treatable by antibiotics in almost all cases. Judith Barcy, the little girl who voice-acted Ducky in The Land Before Time, was murdered by her father at age 10. All they found of her and her mother were charred remains. The father shot himself after. Pretty sad stuff. Edit. I feel guilty now for spreading this sad fact so widely. Sorry to the many childhoods I'm told I have retroactively ruined. Tree star, 4-leaf clover. Nope nope nope. Could have done without this one. The cat on the cover of Unfun, Jawbreaker's 1990 debut album, was named after Sammy Davis Jr. The atrocities that the Belgians committed in Congo during their colonial rule. Most of the people still don't know about it. Picture like the one below is an example of the barbaric Belgian rule. Father stares at the hand and foot of his 5-year-old. Severed as a punishment for failing to make the daily rubber quota. Belgian Congo, 1904. I think this wins most unfun sad face. Marlin in Finding Nemo should really turn into a woman and Nemo becomes the husband. That's what happens when the female dies. There's a film theory video that asserts this is gradually happening in the movies. The most common last words that are said before dying is typically, "Something doesn't feel right," or "Something is wrong," of course, followed by a severe heart attack, stroke, whatever. Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. My best friend's last words were, "I feel faint," as his aorta burst. There's definitely some signal your body sends to your brain when you're about to go. There's a bunch of stories like this where people say something like, "I know something is wrong," or "I'm going to die now." That convinces me it has to exist. I've broken bones multiple times in. There's definitely a unique signal in your head of something is incorrect in your body. I wonder what that last one feels like. Time to start saying this every 5 minutes. Dolphins like to rape. A lot. Don't dolphins also abuse pufferfish to get high? Dolphins don't even just rape other dolphins. They rape whales, otters, seals, and even a human being during a NASA test. They do it on purpose. Your nipples are older than your teeth. Need to change that phrase to looking a bit long in the nipple. It takes longer to say www than it does to say World Wide Web. That's why I called it sextuple. Your lips are made of the same skin as your anus. Do you have lips on your ass? Or an anus for a mouth? Spicy foods make a lot more sense knowing that. Does that mean that if I put chapstick on my approximately 150,000 people die every day? So you're saying there's a chance fatal familial insomnia exists? It's a rare, incurable prionic brain disease that progressively destroys your brain's ability to sleep. Eventually, you stop sleeping altogether, go insane, have seizures, and die. The sun is becoming hotter, and in about 1 billion years, the oceans will boil off and our atmosphere will be unable to sustain any form of life. What if we take the planet and push it somewhere else? Bunnies eat their own poop regularly, often directly from their ass. Not exactly. Bunnies have 2 different types of poop. One being pellets, the one most commonly seen, that they do not eat. The other type is a smaller, raspberry-looking cluster that they do eat, oftentimes as soon as it leaves their anus, because it has nutrients they need to redigest. Source: am an owner of 2 messy rabbits, and this. Also, here the poops side by side. That's why the Easter Bunny has that shit-eating grin. There are more slaves today than any time in history. Wait, really? I didn't know this one. That's not fun at all.